And all right, so let's talk about generational wealth again. I've done a video about generational wealth already, but I think in this video, I want to focus specifically on what the ultimate goal is when you are thinking about building generational wealth. I'm not talking about getting rich, okay, because if you want to focus on getting rich, that means you want to focus on collecting items, most likely for your personal gain. Okay? So you want to experience things, you want to buy things that you've never had before. Maybe that, luxury car you've always wanted, the BMW or the Benz you've always wanted. Maybe you've always wanted a Ferrari. You want to buy that so you can flex. You know what I'm saying? So you can flex with your haters. This is not what we're going to talk about on this channel, okay? On this channel, we're going to talk about building generational wealth, because all those other things that I just talked about, getting rich, it has an expiration date. How do I know this? Because I've observed. I use my wisdom. Wisdom, if you look up the definition of wisdom, it says something else, but my definition of wisdom is the ability for you to make sound judgment, good decisions based on what other people have done, based on observing other people. That's my definition of wisdom. In my own wisdom of 43 years on this planet, I have observed people that are older than me, that got rich, that got broke, then they got rich again, but they never really focused on generational wealth. And I don't think they understood the ultimate goal of acquiring wealth, of acquiring that wealth. When I look at acquiring wealth, and I think you guys should look at this the same way, when you're thinking about building a business and then building wealth and acquiring wealth, you need to be focused on the ultimate goal being peace, quiet, and freedom. Those three. If your goal is not peace, quiet, and freedom, you already lost the game. You already lost the game. When you've lived in a wealthy economy like the United States for as long as I have, which is 25 years, you've seen it all. You've seen a lot of people go up and come down. Even if you haven't lived there, you've observed people that got wealthy in that economy and lost everything. All kinds of celebrities. There have been so many celebrities that got famous over the decades. Some of these celebrities, like if you look at them now, not all of them, but some of them have got nothing to their name right now. But 20 years ago, they probably had $10 million, $5 million they're worth. But now they're worth zero. And that's because they never understood the whole point of having wealth and having money. The whole point of having money and wealth is not necessarily to flex on people, although it would be great. It's a good ego booster, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't flex on people when you buy that toy. Of course, do it responsibly. I know people that got rich, not personally, of course, not personally, just from observing, famous, prominent people in society. Here in Africa and over there also in the US, I've observed people for a long time who've accumulated wealth only to lose everything. Then I used to wonder, okay, how is this even possible? Somebody accumulates all this wealth, gets rich, is able to buy a Bentley and Rolls Royce, and they completely squander it. What's really going on here? What's the problem exactly? Some of us are overthinkers. I'm an overthinker, I admit it. Based on my overthinking, it came down to this simple truth. The simple truth is, once people start making money, they lose focus on the ultimate goal of that money. If you lose focus on the fact that that money is supposed to find you peace. It's supposed to create peace for you. Then you already lost the game. Let's start talking about peace for a second. Then I'll jump into the quiet and the freedom part. There are people who have money but have no peace right now. There are people that have all the money in the world, they're completely miserable, zero peace. Because they're probably surrounded by a lot of fake people, a lot of yes men, yes people that are not contributing to their bottom line, peace. There's nothing but chaos going on. They're surrounded by chaotic people. Chaos from this side, chaos from their spouse, chaos from their friends, chaos from the relative. Peace is more valuable than money in this new era, guys. And on the flip side, I know people who don't have that much money, but they have so much peace. You'll be so jealous. You'll be so jealous. They're probably in an amazing marriage. They got beautiful kids. They got a simple home. They eat good. They're not in debt. To me, that's the definition of wealth, peace. Yeah, getting the money, getting the toys, getting the cool cars and everything, that's a bonus on top of, the peace. That's a bonus. That's like the icing on the cake. Generational wealth is impossible to sustain long term without peace. Constantly fighting with so-and-so, constantly fighting with family, constantly fighting with a relative, constantly fighting with your spouse, with your ex-spouse, with your ex-wife, with your ex-husband. This is where wealth goes to die. This is where generational wealth goes to die, when there's no peace in your life. Because with no peace, that means there's no agreeing to anything. Somebody could have an excellent idea. Let's say the wife has a great idea for that business idea that they've always wanted to get into. Maybe the wife wants to start a business selling, these wedding dresses. I just did a video about the wedding dress industry here in Africa. If you do it right, you can make a lot of money if you execute it the right way for the ladies. Sourcing wedding dresses from China. You set up shop over here in Africa. I just did a video about that. Go watch it. Maybe the wife wants to get into that niche. But because the husband has too many side chicks, the home is too chaotic, and there's no peace in that home. Now the wife is mad. The money that you should be using to invest in that business, giving to your wife to invest in that business, you're spending on your side chicks to impress your side chicks. Or you're drinking at the bar. Most likely giving it to the side chicks. No, you already lost the game. There's no peace in the home now. Now the wife is mad. Now you got to dodge the wife now. You can't go home. Because you blew the entire paycheck. It's samaki. By the way, you come to Dar es Salaam, you got to go to samaki. That place is too turned up. I'm avoiding samaki. Let me keep it real with you. There are too many gold diggers over there. This is how you destroy and ruin your own peace. Maybe the husband wants to get into the, furniture business. Selling custom furniture, importing it from China. Okay? Using my drop shipping model that I'm recommending in my videos. I did a video about that. Go watch it. I did a video about that. But because the wife is such a jealous bitch, she doesn't have the ability to bring this man peace. So instead of this man focusing on this business idea, going to China by himself, not with this nagging woman, going to China by himself, negotiating the deals over there in China, sourcing furniture, and then setting up shop in Africa here to sell this custom furniture, he can't do that because he doesn't have peace. Because he knows he can't even bring that idea up to go to China by himself. Because he knows his woman is a jealous bitch. And she will sabotage the plan. No peace. So no ability to build generational wealth that way. That's point number 2 now is quiet. Then I'll jump into freedom. Peace and quiet go hand in hand. If there's no peace, there's always going to be yelling. There's no day that's going to go where, there's no yelling. How many of you that are watching this content know of a couple that is always fighting? There's always yelling in the home. As soon as they get back home, there's always going to be yelling. How many? I know so many of you. I know so many in the United States. That's why marriages and relationships don't work over there in the United States anymore, or in the West. We have the same problems here in Africa too. Chaotic marriages, there's no peace, and there's no quiet. Because without quiet, you can't listen to your own thoughts, and you can't write down your own thoughts. If there's too much noise going on. Have you ever tried to study something or focus on something in a kindergarten when the kids are running around yelling and screaming? Have you ever tried that? It's impossible, guys. It's impossible. So the ultimate goal for generational wealth is peace, quiet. Third point, freedom. I think when I say freedom, a lot of people get this completely, they completely misunderstand this point when I say freedom. To me, pretty much freedom you can define however you want, but let me tell you how I define freedom. Freedom to me is the ability to be able to do what you want, when you want, go anywhere you want to go in the world, anytime you want to go, any time of the day, any time of the week. You wake up today, random Monday. Today's a Monday today. Random Monday. All right. You wake up on a Monday and say, all right, what do I want to do today? All right, today I want to build a brand new business. Or today I want to just hang out with my kids at the trampoline. Or today I just want to take a nap all day. That's freedom right there. That's freedom. And part of that freedom comes with not having a lot of debt. Because a lot of what holds people back from freedom is taking on too much debt that is useless. There's good debt and bad debt. If you guys are students of economics, there's what we call good debt and bad debt. Good debt to have is debt that maybe you are taking on some debt to buy inventory or stock for your store. And that stock is going to move. And you're going to get the money back. You're going to recover the money back. That's not bad debt. But bad debt is you are buying a car on credit just to flex on people. That's a liability. There's a confusion amongst the older generation. They confuse having material things and liabilities with generational wealth. There's so many people that are waking up to the reality right now that we're going through currently one of the biggest wealth transfers in human history. What I mean by that is the older generation, the baby boomer generation, is now passing on these assets they've been holding on to for years, for decades. They're passing on these assets to their children. The children are now in their 30s and their 40s, some are even in their 50s. But these baby boomers, these are people that are 65 and above, 65 to like 80. They're too old now, but they have all these material things, old cars, homes, and whatnot. We're starting to wake up to the reality that a lot of these things that these baby boomers called assets, they're not really assets. A lot of these things are liabilities, low key. Now, is that generational wealth? No, it's not. If you're going to inherit a mansion that costs you $2,000 a month to maintain, or $1,500 a month to maintain, It's meaningless. Now you got to come up with $1,500 every single month to maintain that mansion that your parents gave you. You're better off selling that thing. Because that's not a liability. That's not an asset, guys. That's a liability. The older generation doesn't know that a lot of these things are not assets. But the people that have done their due diligence, their homework like us, we know these things. Nobody can play me and say, oh, I'm a Faro, Mr. Chibora, here you go. I'm going to ask the questions, dog. Don't just give me something. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. How much is this thing worth? How much money is this thing bringing? If it's not bringing any money in, it's not an asset to me. It's not. And this is what a lot of people that are getting all this quote unquote wealth are starting to wake up to. The Americans are waking up to this reality. Just go ask the Americans. There are a lot of Americans right now that are inheriting properties from their parents, and only to discover that those properties have a lot of backlog in taxes. They have a huge tax bill. And so even though they inherit that property, they still got to pay a $50,000 tax bill on their mansion. And they don't have 50 grand just lying around. Who's got 50 grand just lying around to pay up a tax bill on an inherited house? So they might as well flog that thing. They might as well sell it on the market for cheap. That's what's happening in the United States. And it's happening now globally. So when you're building generational wealth, these are some of the things you need to be aware of. That the older generation, you need to study what's happening with the older generation. Because the older generation doesn't have the answers that you think they do. Don't think that the older generation knows what they're talking about or what they're doing. Because they really don't. A lot of these people grew up in the era where there was no internet. And they just got used to it. They just got comfortable, surviving and living without access to information that you have if you're younger. If you're a Gen Xer, if you're a Gen Z, if you're a millennial, you have access to way more information than some of these baby boomers, at least most of them. I know baby boomers here in Africa, they don't even know how to use a smartphone like that. Like, they might know how to dial it, but as far as all this other extra stuff, they don't know because they didn't grow up with these things. That means also the access to information that they have when it comes to what truly is generational wealth. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What is the ultimate goal of it? They don't know. So they saddle with a bunch of liabilities. What I'm saying is that when you're building generational wealth, you need to focus on the main goal. What is the main goal? Peace, quiet, and freedom. Those are the key. If you're not focusing on those three, you're really wasting your time. Everything else, the money, the toys, the cool, clothes, they will come. They will come when you're chasing those three. Peace, quiet, and freedom. Because that's ultimately what everybody wants anyway. I know you who's watching this content. You want the same thing. Peace, quiet, and freedom. The world is already a mess as it is. The world is chaotic as it is. And finding peace is very expensive. Finding freedom is very expensive. It's either you put in the time or you pay for it. I hope you got some value from this video. If you're ready to work with the best, shifting the way you think about doing business here in Africa. Don't listen to the propaganda, okay? Focus on the real information. I created this channel so I can deliver real information to you guys. That it is possible to build generational wealth here in Africa. But you need to be working with the right person, the right coach. and I can coach you along the way. If you're ready to work with the best, schedule time. I'll put a link in the description of this video. This will be a paid consultation. This means that you are going to, refine or define together, actually. We're going to define what your niche is. We're going to define or finalize which markets make sense for you. And I'm going to help you along the way. Branding, research, the setup of the business. Utilizing, China as your source if you're selling product. There's so many ways to navigate Africa. Africa feels to me like the United States in the 90s and early 2000s. So what worked in the United States in the 90s and early 2000s will work in Africa. I just did a video about Toys R Us. I just did a video about Cindy Crawford furniture. All these ideas, they worked in the United States. They will work here because the market is available here. There's massive opportunity here for that. If you're ready to work with the best, schedule time. Paid consult. Serious people only. Talk to you soon.